Good morning, dear students. Welcome to the English grammar session. Dear children, today we are going to talk about an interesting topic. We are going to talk about verbs. Verb, an action word. This topic is quite simple, right? We know what a verb is, what its function is in a sentence. Verb is an action word. It denotes the action done by the subject in a sentence. Let me tell you one thing. Verb gives the energy, more vitality to a sentence. The more clearly we understand the various functionalities of a verb in a sentence, we can add more life and vitality to our sentence. And today's topic is chapter 15, transitive and intransitive verbs. Please look at the spelling of the words closely. Transitive and intransitive verb. Transitive, transitive and intransitive. Intransitive verbs. We are going to discuss the functions of a transitive and an intransitive verb in a sentence. Now, this is the topic, transitive verbs. Look at the word transitive. Transitive verbs are like our transit system. Transit, you know, right? Transit or transportation we say. Okay, see how do the transportation systems help us in our day-to-day life? Just imagine the buses, car or airplane, ferry boat. They transport people, correct? They carry people from one place to another place. In the same way, a transitive verb carries or passes over. Please bear in mind this word. Passes over. A transitive verb passes over an action of a verb to the subject to an object of the sentence. What's a transitive verb? A transitive verb transits or transports or passes over the action of a verb from the subject to the object of the sentence. Let's see this sentence written here. The cat chased the rat. Which is the subject here? Doer of an action? Of course, the cat. Cat is the subject. Which is the main verb? The action done by the subject, the cat? Chased. Correct? Chased is the verb. And who is receiving the action of being chased? The object, rat. Correct? Understood? This is the object. We have discussed about all these words in previous classes. You must be remembering that. Subject is the doer of an action. In a sentence, subject can be a person who does an action. And verb is the action done by the subject. And object is the receiver of an action. Receiver of an action done by the subject. Object is one who experiences or who receives the action done by the subject. Okay, and what is the definition of a transitive verb? A transitive verb passes over or carries the action, okay, the action of the verb from the subject to the object. That means, in a sentence, when we use a transitive verb, we require an object. Okay, a transitive verb always requires an object. Because a transitive verb, it carries the action from the subject to the object. Correct? So, please bear in mind, a sentence with a transitive verb must always be having an object. And this is the structure of a sentence with a transitive verb. Subject, verb and object. This is the structure of a sentence with a transitive verb. These three components must be there in a sentence when we are using a transitive verb. What are they? Subject, verb and object. Discussed, a sentence with a transitive verb must be having three components: subject, verb and object. Look at these. They are not complete sentences, they are part of the sentences. The driver stopped. Is it complete? Okay, there is a possibility of asking question, what did the driver stop? So it's not complete. We can add something over here to get a complete meaning. Correct? Second one, the boy kicked. What did the boy kick? Isn't it? So let's try to complete these sentences by adding a word. The driver stopped the car. Okay, now it's complete. It conveys a perfect meaning here. The boy kicked the ball. Yes, now our task is whether the given verb is a transitive verb or not. We need to find it out. So what is the condition? A sentence having transitive verb must be having the structure in this way. It must have these three parts of grammar: subject, verb and object. Let's find out the subject of the first sentence. As we know, a subject is the doer of an action. So who did the action here? The driver. So driver is the subject. And which is the action being referred to here? What did the driver do? Stopped. Okay, this is the verb. Correct? Children, who experienced that action? Okay, the driver stopped something. Who received that action? See, the car. Correct? Hence, car is the object. Yes, of course, the first sentence has a transitive verb. It is stopped. As I told you, a transitive verb always requires an object, because a transitive verb transits or passes over the action from the subject to the object. A transitive verb passes over or carries the action from the subject to the object. Hence, a transitive verb always requires an object, a subject and an object. Okay, and the second one is who kicked the ball. Hence, the subject is boy. The action being referred to here is kicked. Okay, and who receives the action of being kicked? Yes, the boy. Of course, object. Subject, verb, object. This is all about transitive verbs. They require an object. Children, now we are going to talk about intransitive verbs. Intransitive verbs. As the heading indicates, here the intransitive verbs do not pass over or carry the action from the subject to the verb. Okay, they do the action on their own. That means intransitive verbs do not require an object to receive the action. Let's look at these sentences given here. The boy laughed loudly. So which is the subject here? The boy. Of course, laughed is the verb and loudly is the adverb. Do we have an object here? Is someone else receiving the action of laugh? No, the boy, the subject himself is experiencing this action. Correct? Yeah. Second one, some ants fought very fiercely. Some ants, of course, the subject, fought is the verb and fiercely is the adverb. No object here. Okay, the car stopped suddenly. As we know, the car is the subject. Stopped, verb, suddenly is the adverb. We don't find any object over here in these three sentences. That means intransitive verbs never carry the action from the subject to the object. That means intransitive verbs do not need an object to receive the action. Okay, who will experience the action in a sentence with intransitive verb? The subject itself will experience that action. The boy laughed. Some ants fought. The car stopped. Here the subject experiences the action. The subject itself receives the action. It will not be carried forward to an object. Correct? So we can say what can be the structure of a sentence with an intransitive verb. While we are using an intransitive verb in a sentence, two main components must be there in the sentence. First one, the subject plus second one, verb. Okay, we can write the boy laughed. Enough. Adverb is not at all necessary here. Correct? Even without the adverb, the sentence is complete. The boy laughed. Enough. Okay, so these two we can write adverb also. Fine. So in an intransitive verb, in a sentence with an intransitive verb, these two components must be there, subject and verb. As I told you, intransitive verbs do not carry forward the action from subject to the object. The subject itself will experience that action. So let's say intransitive verbs convey or denote the state of being of the subject, the condition or state of being of the subject. Now let's move on to the mind map of the topic. Children, here is the mind map of the topic, transitive and intransitive verbs. Transitive verbs denote an action that passes over from the subject to an object. As I told you, just to bear in mind, this is the easiest way to bear in mind these two concepts. Transitive means transit, that transits something, okay, that passes over the action of the verb from the subject to the object. Okay, transitive, it transports or transits, carries over the action from the subject to the verb, hence it needs an object in the sentence, subject, verb, object. Whereas intransitive verbs denotes an action which does not pass over to an object. It expresses a state or being or a condition of the subject. As I told you, intransitive verbs do not transit or transport an action from the subject to the verb. The subject itself will experience the action being referred to in the sentence. He spoke sincerely. Subject and verb, these two components should be there mainly in a sentence with an intransitive verb. Dear students, all of you watch this video carefully. Thank you so much. Take care. God bless.